Hello everyone, my name is Anishana and you are watching Kubernetes web series. As of now, we have successfully completed some topics. If you have not watched those videos, then you may click on the I button. Just for your information, this PowerPoint document can be downloaded from my GitHub page. Beside this, subtitle for different languages such as English, French, Russian and German is available for this video. Before jump into our today topic, let me inform you that this month, December 2022, I cleared the CKA exam and I will share the CKA question pattern with you so that it will help you to clear the CKA or CKAD exam. Our topic is pod. We use Kubernetes to manage containers. However, in Kubernetes, containers is kept inside the pod. Now the question is what is pod and why it is necessary. Pod is the smallest, very basic deployable objects in the Kubernetes. A single process will be used if you are running a pod. In pod, we can run multiple containers and these containers will share the pod resources, shared storage, network resources, and the specification for how to run the containers. In simple word, we can say that pod is a logical boundary of containers. We assign the IP address to pod instead of container. Every container in the pod share the network namespace, including the IP address and network ports. Inside a pod, and only then the container that belongs to the pod can communicate with one another using local hosts. Kubernetes supports multiple runtime engine, Containerd, CREO, and Docker engine. Now the next part is type of pods. We have static pod and dynamic pod. Static pods are directly managed by kubelet daemon on a specific node and supervise them and restart if it's failed. It means that API servers are not monitor them. What we have learned that API server is managing all the pod but not for static pods. Let's understand with the help of one diagram. We have one master node named master. In this master node, we have four master components, that is API server, scheduler, controller, and etcd database. Please bear in mind that scheduler, controller, and etcd are communicate with only API server. Further, we have three worker nodes named worker node 1, worker node 2, and worker node 3. In these worker nodes, we have kubelet, kube proxy, and container runtime, that is CRI components. API servers are communicating with kubelet component. Now, if we create a static pod on worker node 1, then this pod will be running only on worker node 1. And if this pod is managed by kubelet, if this worker node goes down, then this pod will also be down. It will not move to any other worker node because this pod is not being managed by API server. If we create this pod on worker node 3, then it will be managed by worker node 3 kubelet component only. The main use for static pod is to run self-host control plane. In another word, we can say that using the kubelet to supervise the individual control plane component. So in this diagram, as we already discussed that kubelet component should be installed on each and every node of Kubernetes cluster. Thus, this kubelet is also installed on the master node. This kubelet manages the master node component such as API, scheduler, controller, and etcd database pods. Let's move ahead. The kubelet automatically try to create a mirror pod on the Kubernetes API server for each static pod. This means that pod running on a node are visible to API server but cannot be controlled from there. A good example of static pods are API scheduler etcd database, and these are the static pod that I described in my previous slide. Static pod are being managed by only kubelet of that particular worker node. Pod can be created by YAML file or through command line. Let's explore YAML file for pod. So in the YAML file, API version is v1, kind is pod. We are going to create one pod, and inside this metadata, we have mentioned the name of pod. So here the name is Nginx. In specs, we mentioned the container name Nginx, and the image that we are going to use is Nginx 1.14.2. And after that, container port is 80. In the CKA exam, it will ask to create a static pod on worker node 1. For that reason, we should know that how to check and where to create that file. First, we need to identify the kubelet configuration file. We can execute the command ps space aux grep kubelet. From there, we get to know that is reside inside var lab kubelet directory, and the file name is config.yaml file. Let's open this file with the help of cat command and check the static path. So we can use grep static. It means that we need to create a static pod file under this directory only. We can copy this content from the kubernetes.io website and create a file on worker node 1 under etc kubernetes manifest directory. Here I just copied the content from the kubernetes.io URL. Here please note that pod name is static web. We just need to create a file, that's it. In the master node, when we execute the command kubectl get pod, we will see one new pod is creating, container creating, with the name static web hyphen worker node 1.example.com. Here the syntax would be pod name plus hyphen plus worker node name. We can get to know the worker node name if we execute the command kubectl get nodes. From there we get to know that it is created on worker node 1.example.com. The name of the static pod hyphen and then node name. Dynamic pod are being managed by controller pods. So how we can create a pod from command line? Yeah. Last time we learned that how to create the pod from YAML file, and now we are going to learn how we can create a pod from command line. So the command is simple: kubectl run pod name and then hyphen hyphen image name. So here I'm using nginx and the pod name is test hyphen pod 1. How we can check kubectl get pod? If I execute this command, I will see that test hyphen pod is running here. In this command, I'm just going to dry run this pod. So it means that I'm not going to create this pod here. If I execute the kubectl get pod, I will see that there is no test pod 2 is there. So it means that the dry run, you can use this option hyphen hyphen dry run equal to client to check if you are using the correct image or correct name. So it is only for the testing purpose. So creating a YAML file from command line. Yes, we can also create a YAML file. It is not necessary that always we need to go to kubernetes.io website to copy the YAML file. We can also create the YAML file from the command itself. Here I'm using run test port 2 hyphen hyphen image and then dry run, and then minus o is for out. Out is YAML. So when I execute this command, I will see that this YAML format I will get it. Okay, so here you can see that test hyphen pod and image is nginx that I have mentioned here, image equal to nginx here. If I execute this command kubectl get pod, I will see nothing here because here I used hyphen hyphen dry run equal to client. So I just want the YAML file of this command so that I can modify this YAML file and then create this pod. Later on, we will learn that how we can use this YAML file and edit the file and then create the pod. A pod with two container. In CK, maybe this type of question you will observe in your paper. So just watch this video very carefully. So here it is says that you need to create one pod and the name of this pod is my pod, and you need to create two container inside this pod. The first name is nginx and the image that container should use is nginx 1.14.2, and the second container name is redis and the image it should use redis. So in this type of question, what we do, In the step 1, we will use kubectl run my pod is my pod name hyphen hyphen image nginx 1.14.2 hyphen hyphen diren equal to client and then out YAML. So I will get it this in a YAML format and redirect into one file here. Okay, so nginx I use the same file here and then redirect into question1.yaml file. Later on, I will open this YAML question1.yaml file and then change the name nginx as per the question and then image is already same because we used image equal to nginx 114.2, so no need to modify it. So just modify the name here and after that name redis and image redis. So you need to add two line here, image and name. You can copy this syntax here and hyphen in front of image, right? And then kubectl create minus f question1 dot yaml. How to create the pod? We can use create and apply. I will come up with a new video to have a difference with that. So for now, you can just remember it. You can use create minus f is for file. So what file we are using? Question1.yaml file here. And then kube get pod. So last time we used kubectl get pod. This time we are using minus w. Minus w is for watch. So when I executing this command, I will see that minus w is for watch and then my pod container creating, right? And after some time you will observe that my pod is running here. So no need to execute again and again this command to see if the pod is running or not. So you can use minus w option here, right? In this way you can complete your this question and it will take hardly 2 minutes if you do well practice in at home. So in exam I'd finish this question in 2 minutes. Most probably you will get this answer questions. Maybe the options will be different. Okay, so pod command, what commands we can use here? So kubectl get pod to see the pods, kubectl create minus f pod.yaml. Recently we used this command, and after that we can describe pod nginx. I will explore this describe option in my lab section, and then kubectl get pod nginx minus o void. This option I will explore in the lab section. Kubectl execute pod nginx if you want to log in inside one pod. So this is the command that you can use here. Kubectl get nginx minus c nginx1 it. This is, let's suppose if we have two container, this minus c is for container, the container name here, and then log in inside this container. Kubectl logs, if you want to see the logs of you can use this command, and then kubectl logs pod, and again if you want to see some specific container you can use this pod nginx and then minus c container name here, container c1 c2 whatever the container name you can write it here and you will see the logs. Kubectl delete pod nginx, so it will going to delete the pod nginx. Delete pod nginx hyphen hyphen timeout 0 hyphen hyphen force. In this command it will delete the pod on the spot, so it will not taking time. This command delete pod nginx, it takes some time. So grace period 0 and then force is the command, actual command. Okay, so let's explore all these command in the lab section where you can see everything. In this page we will going to learn that what are the pod phases there. So pending, running, successful, failed and unknown. Pending means one or more container are waiting to create dependent container to be created. It is waiting, so it is wait time. Running perfectly fine, no issue. Containers, our containers are running fine. So my pod is running. Succeed is pod terminated successfully and not restart again. The job is completed. The job of that pod is completed. So it is succeeded and it will stop. Failed is some error is there. You will observe some error message. This is the reason it never start. So it is failed. And there is also one state that is unknown. State of pod could not be obtained. So there are some different error that cannot be identified by Kubernetes. So it is unknown state. You need to troubleshoot in that way. These are the values. It will help you to identifying the issue. Let's jump into the lab section. In the CKA exam, it will ask you to create a static pod named MyStatPod on worker node 1. So first for you need to log in into the master node and then check kubectl get nodes, and there you will get to know that okay, this is my worker node 1 here. So log in into that from root user. Okay, for me it is not resolving the name. No worries. 192 168 1.31, sorry, 32. Now I'm logging into the worker node 1. Sudo -i and then execute command psaux pipe grep kubelet. From there you can see that config equal to this file. So just copy this path here and cat this file and then grab static path. Maybe you can use static. From this file it is says that if you create any file inside this directory, kubelet will automatically create the pod. Okay, so let's go to in the site in this directory. Here you can write kubernetes.io. In exam you do like this, click on documentation and here static pod, create static pod. If you scroll down a little bit more, you can see that this is the path. Okay, so I'm just copy this path only and question1 dot yaml, whatever it is, right? Question1 dot yaml and press I for insert. Here in the question it says that pod name is this, so I'm just going to update the pod name here. You can remove this role if you want, if not it's okay. Just save this file here and here kubectl command, kubectl get pods. If you execute this command it will show you nothing, right? Because you are in worker node. Exit from this node and now execute the same command kubectl get pod. You will see my stat pod and hyphen and then worker node. Okay, as I stated in my theory part that first it's the pod, static pod name, then hyphen and then node name where this pod is created here. So we have successfully created the pod, static pod. This is the solution for question number 1. Now let's jump into question number 2 where we need to create a pod name my pod and it should have two containers running. It is very easy. So I just copy this here and I need to execute this command on master node. So kubectl run pod name and then hyphen hyphen image equal to what image I can use here. This image, right? I can use here and hyphen hyphen dry run equal to client. You can use, you can press tab button. It will automatically full. Okay, -o YAML and then redirect to question2.yaml file. Okay, and then question2.yaml file. Open this file here. First, you need to update this file here. It should be nginx right here. Just paste here hyphen image. What image I need to use here for the second container? It is Redis. Just copy and then insert and then name Redis. It is same. Okay, and if you want to delete, You can delete it, but for me, it's okay. kubectl create minus f 2. That's it. My pod is already running. Okay. Why it is saying my pod is already running? kubectl get pod. My pod is already running. Okay. So I need to delete this pod here. So kubectl delete pod hyphen hyphen grace period equal to 0 and hyphen hyphen force. Delete it. Okay. So there is only one static pod is there. So now I'm going to create this pod here and it is created now. Kubectl get pods minus w. It says it is running here. And how you can check if there is two container running inside this pod here? Kubectl get pod and then my pod minus o YAML. Clear the screen and if you will go up and you will see that one image is Redis and the second image is Nginx. And the first container name is Nginx, second container name is Redis. Yeah, okay, there is a one way. Second way is that you can use kubectl describe pod and enter. In this way, you can see that this pod is first created container nginx, started the container nginx, pulling the image redis, and then successfully pulled image redis, created container redis, and then start the container redis. So from there, you can check that we have two containers running inside this pod. And if you scroll up, you will also see the state is running. And in describe, it's giving you more information here. Okay, the third way that we can use here, get logs pod my pod and you will see the containers. Okay, so you can use minus c nginx nginx and press enter. You will see the logs, but as of now there is no logs, so this is the reason it is not showing any log here. For redis you can use redis and you will see some, yes, in redis we have some logs here ready to asset connection. So in this way you can see the logs of the container. And there are three ways that I stated, that I informed you, that how you can check the containers. And if you want to log in inside this one container, then you can execute the command kubectl exec exec pod my pod minus c, because we have two containers, so we need to define in which container you want to log in, and then minus it for interactive for terminal and bin bash. Or maybe bin sh is the command here. So as you can see here that the prompt is changed here, and if you execute psaux you will see only one command. So unfortunately there is no binary for this ps. Df space minus h, you will see my VM information here. Control D, and maybe you can use you namespace minus a. My pod is there. Nico dollar host name. Let me clear the screen here. If I execute pnv environment variables, it will show the all the variables available here for this container. Control D, yes. And if I want to delete this pod, so kubectl get pods, kubectl delete my pod, and grace period is 0 and hyphen hyphen force. So it will give you warning and delete this pod on the spot. Okay. Some question it will ask in the CKAD. So for that reason, you need to execute this command. I will explain in my coming slides or maybe in coming videos. Okay, for that moment, you just write this command, execute this command, same as it is, and this same command will be given in the paper. Okay, so a web application requires a specific version of Redis to be used as a cache. Create a pod with the following characteristics and leave it running when complete. The pod must be run in the core namespace, and for the moment, just ignore the namespace. I will complete this topic in my coming video. Namespace. The namespace has already been created. The name of the pod should be mypod1. Use the nginx image this and expose the container pod here. So there are two ways. So the first one is that we can use the YAML file here. So here just write here pod in the Kubernetes. Click here pod and use this first YAML file. Copy it. So this is my third question, right? So I'm just going to create one new file with the name is q3.yaml. Press I insert, shift insert, and the name of my pod is, let me recheck my pod name here. It's my pod1. Nginx, and the image is Nginx 1.14.1 and the image is 1. So here I'm using 14.1 and the port number is 6379. That's it. kubectl create minus f q3 kubectl get ports. If you execute this command, you will be failed. Why? In question, it is create this port in one specific name space, right? For that reason, you need to delete this. And now again, open this and here just write namespace and the namespace is core, core, and then kubectl create minus f q3 minus n. Namespace is our core. Now your question is completed right way, and if you remove this n, you will not see any port here. I will cover this topic, what is namespace. Okay, so for the paper it is like this, and yes, we can create a one pod inside one namespace. How we can do it, this is what I showed you here. Same thing in the paper, it will ask you, in the different context, but for the lab purpose, I'm just using the same command here. For the second question, just insert here, switch the context, and then my fourth question is, you are required to create a pod that requires a certain amount of CPU and memory. So it gets scheduled to a node that those resources available. Create a pod name nginx resource. Okay. Again, I will go to my Kubernetes here and pod resources. Kubernetes, go down. If you scroll down, you will see this is good example. Right. So just shift and then copy this YAML file. This is my fourth question. So I just use q.yaml, press I insert here. So now let's check what it says. My port name, it should be this. So let me go name. In the port resource namespace, again I need to add namespace here. So namespace colon space and press. I had already created this namespace, so I will not observe any error. So, okay, in your exam, it will ask again the same scenario. The namespace is already created, and it required the minimum 200 M CPU and 2 gig memory container. And the port should use nginx image. Okay, and the port resource name is already being created. This is what it is said, that port resource namespace is already created. I should use nginx image and these variables. So let me go here. Anything, it is not mentioned anything, so I'm just leave it nginx and resource memory. It is 200, right? 200 CPU and 2 gig, 2 GI, 2 capital GI, and the CPU is 200, right? Let me revalidate it. It's yes, 200 M CPU, right? And limit request and limit, you can leave it this, but yes, let me write it here, 2 gig and 200. So let me explain you here that request is 64 MB and the limit is 128 MB. So lower and maximum it can this. So here I just said limit is and request, it can request 2 gig and the limit is 2 gig. So what it can request is minimum 64 MB it can request, and the maximum it can go to 128. And the second I don't require second, that's it. kubectl create minus f q4 kubectl get pod minus n. What is the namespace? Pod hyphen resource. Pod hyphen resources. So you can see here that it is running. This is what it is required. If you want to edit anything here, you can use edit pod nginx. It will not show you any here, right? So for that reason, you need to this and pods and nginx. Now you will see this. So it's limit 200 and the memory is 2 gig. Everything is good. So no changes is made. I just want to show you. So second question is also done. And the third question is kube config. Again, I need to execute this command first. In exam preparation, you need to log in into different context. There will be different clusters. You sometimes need to observe a pod logs and write those logs to a file for the analysis. Please complete the following. Deploy the mypod 4 pod deploy cluster using provide YAML file inside this directory. So in exam, there is one YAML file is already there. So you just need to create the pod from the YAML file. Just use create minus F option. Retrieve all the currently available application log from the running pod and store in the file this, which is already been created. Okay, so this file is already being created here. So let me, so I have already created this file here. Let me clear the window. So this file is already there and it is currently empty. So what we can do here, the YAML file is already being provided in the exam, but here I need to create one. So I'm just going to create one here. So this is the good one, good example here. So let me use this YAML file, cat inside data, and the file name is my port 4, my port 4.yaml. So in exam, you just need to kubectl create minus f and then data mypod4.test. So in this question, they will ask you to check the logs and rewrite it into the another file. So we know the command logs and then pod name and the pod name is command demo, right? You can see the logs here. Yes. And if you want to see the logs of one container, I had already showed you that, if there are two container, how you can check it. So you can check this container name here. In the exam preparation, they will ask you to redirect it in one file. So I'm just using this one and then cat, that's it. So how to check the logs? This is what we had covered here in this question number 4. What we have, that how to limit the CPU and memory. This is what we have covered here, and in this we can give the dedicated one container port here, and how we can create one pod in one specific namespace and with special tag here. These questions probably asked in the CKAD exam. So there are too many options available in the Kubernetes.io websites. So maybe you can explore yourself that, if you want to add some environment variable, how you can do it. If you want to execute some command inside one pod or container, you can use this context. So make yourself comfortable and, explore all these options inside this Kubernetes.io website, where it's not possible for me to cover each and every example in the videos. So I just pick up what I, get it on the spot. If you like my videos, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Bye bye.